I am talking tonight about the new romantic revival. This is not a literary lecture. I am not making any claim to wide study in the field of literature. I am not a professor of with great knowledge of poetry. I'm talking about a phenomenon, illustrating it by the things that have struck me and I find illuminating. Something of extraordinary interest is in fact happening now. This is the emergence of what we call the holistic worldview. It really is a most astonishing phenomenon. It is nothing less than a turnabout in the very center of our consciousness, in our generation, or rather culminating in our generation. An accumulative process building up of inner change. This whole movement has nothing to do with, in no sense is somebody's thought out plan for trying to improve society. We are being the channels for a change that is coming, a change in consciousness. And of course, holism, the oneness vision, axiomatically touches everything. What we are realizing is a revival of the knowledge that was in the ancient mystery wisdom, that the universe is mind and not mechanism, that the whole is alive, that God is life wherever you meet it. Everything is, in a real sense, alive and is one. Our minds are grappling with the concept of oneness. A realization that the earth is a living creature with its thinking, its feeling, its breathing. And man is not just an observer of nature, over against nature, watching it and controlling it, as the rational intellect has assumed. We have developed what has been called the onlooker consciousness, a sense of separation. The senses tell you that you are separated off. You are you and me, and that's a table, and those are flowers, all separate. But that same intellect that has produced the separation is now recovering the vision of wholeness, the oneness vision, and realizing in a movement which is uniting the streams of science, advanced scientific thinking, with mysticism, realizing the same thing, that everything is energy and alive, and that all energy flows into all the rest of the energy in a great oneness. And man is not just the observer. Man always male, female, simpler to use the word man genetically. The human being is part of nature. We are that point where nature becomes self-conscious. We are not observers of nature. We are nature. We are nature at the point where she has become self-conscious and reflective, capable of reflecting the living ideas which are the archetypes behind and within form, the forms of nature. And we're waking up to this phenomenon now. Ours is the first generation that can really grasp that humanity is a living organism and that each of us is a cell of that humanity. Just think that. Grapple with your imagination to see that. We are not separated, or only on a certain level do we experience identity. But on the realer level, we are all cells in one great body. Humanity is a unitary being, a great planetary being, of which we are each a cell. And we can therefore, if we choose, think with the planetary being. This is the change that's coming. Now, this is so big a thought. It implies this too. The realization that you, the thing in you which can say I, is certainly not your body. It is a divine entity, housed in the temple of a body, a droplet of God, entering into embodiment. Terrific thought. And mind you, this is not dogma you're asked to believe, but it's an idea to live with. Think it. Live with it as an idea. Don't believe or disbelieve, but try it out by living it. For tonight, we are all of us, each of us, are droplets of divinity, part of God. As such, axiomatically, we are immortal and imperishable. There can't be any death for God, because God is life. Therefore, we, the real I in us, cannot possibly die, even if its body is burnt or smashed or thrown away. Think what that means in our death-ridden culture. It's a terrific thought. Now this is coming to us, as I say, with a rush. And of course, inevitably, these big thoughts are not only intellectual thoughts. They are living thoughts, and we are groping to express them. And inevitably, therefore, they must be expressed in poetry, in the arts, in music, in painting, in sculpture, in ballet, in the lot. That's why we may also prophesy a new renaissance coming. We're on the threshold of a new renaissance. Because inevitably, as we grasp this oneness vision, you can't deal with it only intellectually, with the rational intellect, and therefore it must express itself in the arts. So great is this thought. And that is what's coming. Now listen just to a bit of this poem by Evelyn Molt, called The Glory Which Is Earth. Man treads softly on the earth. What looks like dust is also stuff of which galaxies are made. The green of earth's great trees and simple grasses is the same music played in red throughout our trunks and limbs. O earth, living, breathing, thinking earth, the day we treasure you as you have treasured us, humanness is born. And throughout all light, a radiance leaps from star to star, singing, a son is born, humanity. Wonderful thought that the heaven world, the angelic world, is watching this earth as earth, the darkened planet. Begins to glow as one point after another in that part of nature which has become self-conscious. As that spark begins to light up with lifted consciousness which unites again with the source to which it belongs, and the earth begins to glow. The truth is that we stand now not only on the threshold of a new renaissance, but a great awakening, which is even truly a birth. As humanity, we are not yet born. We are still in the pre-birth stage. But we are approaching it, and the birth is liable to come in this generation. This is what we mean by the coming of the new age. It is a new birth into life, into the great planetary being, into consciousness of a great planetary being that is humanity. O earth, living, breathing, thinking earth, the day we treasure you as you have treasured us, humanness is born. And throughout all light a radiance leaps from star to star, singing, a son is born, humanity. This planet is coming alight as that part of nature which is reflective, which can think, wakes up. Unborn humanity, of course, is filled with destructive emotion and is doing all the nasty things that we see. But the violence is not the real news. The real news is the coming of this new renaissance, this awakening of this new romanticism, this awakening of one human being after another, and groups coming together to think about it, and groups therefore beginning to glow and link in networks with other groups all over who are really dedicating thought to the inflooding of the light which is coming and the new consciousness. In other words, tonight I am not talking academic stuff about Wordsworth and the like. I am talking about a phenomenon which is happening to all of us and which is culminating, which is reaching its great maturity before the end of this century. This is why it's so exciting. Now, to set the scene, here is a poem by a young Irishman. He calls it Parousia. Parousia means not just the second coming, it really means, in Greek, the presence beyond, the presence behind. We are falling yet. And the notes still spill into our minds, gather and hold in brief recreation of that first awful stillness that seeded the stars into our cosmos. Feebly we feel into the recesses after the receding light of the lost glory of man, when we sang with the morning stars at the dawn of time. Yet there is hope of a new synthesis, drawing together the strands of creation, converging under the banner of Christ. It is happening quietly, inevitably, trickling into all corners like the rising tide. Many are too heavy to lift into the new perception, drowned in the density of their many necessities, trapped in the tension of life's trivia. Yet some, even now, hear the whisper and slap of running water, and work, knowing that soon their life will lift from the inertia of history, and they will sail singing with the storm of his coming. Listen to this. This is Martin Conway, a mountaineer. The revolution in our modern attitude towards natural beauty was accomplished by poets and painters. Rousseau, and after him Wordsworth, and the late poets were leaders of this change. Calm in the bosom of Helvellyn, such descriptive words could not have been uttered before the coming of the Romantic age. It was the romantic soul in man that first saw itself reflected in nature. The mountains have always been the same. It was a new eye that saw them. Here is the revolution that Wordsworth brought about. This passionate feeling, the sounding cataract, haunted me like a passion. That kind of feeling about nature. But here we come to the important thing. Wordsworth's sorrow. There was a time when meadow, grove, and stream, the earth and every common sight, to me did seem apparelled in celestial light, the glory and the freshness of a dream. It is not now as it hath been of yore. Turn wheresoe'er I may, by night or day, the things that I have seen, I now can see no more. The rainbow comes and goes, and lovely is the rose. The moon doth with delight look round her when the heavens are bare. Waters on a starry night are beautiful and fair. The sunshine is a glorious birth. And yet I know where'er I go that there hath passed away a glory from the earth. Whither is fled that transitory gleam? Where are they now, the glory and the dream? And incidentally, he then, but I haven't time to do it all, in this great ode, draws the conclusion that our birth is a sleep and a forgetting, and the light in us goes through from youth. The youth beholds the light, and whence it flows, he sees it in his joy. The youth who daily further from the east must travel, still is nature's priest, and on his way attended is by the vision splendid. At length the man perceives it die away and fade into the light of common day. Now, normally, it is assumed tacitly, right, we grown people now know that it's all nonsense, the light has faded, it's just the illusion of childhood. What is happening now is that we, the new romantic movement, are reviving the vision splendid, which has been lost. It doesn't matter what age you are, even the older people can revive the vision splendid. This is the phenomenon that is happening. The holistic vision is beginning to see through into the light. The achievement of the romantic movement, Wordsworth, Coleridge, and Blake, was to portray this vision and man's relation to nature, the deeper relation to nature. I'm coming round to what that really means a little later on now. We are now recovering this vision. I put in now a poem by Evelyn Underhill, the great teacher of meditation, the great religious visionary. This is a more religious poem. It's called Corpus Christi, but this touches the great vision that we are talking about. Come, dear heart. The fields are white to harvest. Come and see, as in a glass, the timeless mystery of love, whereby we feed on God, our bread indeed. From far horizons came a voice that said, Lo, from the hand of death, take thou thy daily bread. Then I, awakening, saw a splendor burning in the heart of things. The flame of living love that lights the law of mystic death, that works the mystic birth. I knew the patient passion of the earth, maternal, everlasting, whence there springs the bread of angels and the life of man. Now, in each blade, I, blind no longer, see the glory of God's growth. Know it to be an earnest of the immemorial plan. Yea, I have understood how all things are one great oblation made. He on our altars, we on the world's rood. Even as this corn, earthborn, we are snatched from the sod, reaped, ground to grist, crushed and tormented in the mills of God, and offered at life's hands a living Eucharist. Can you get that? It's terrific. I blind in each blade, I blind no longer see the glory of God's growth. Know it to be an earnest of the immemorial plan. Yea, I have understood how all things are one great oblation made. He on our altars, we on the world's rood. Even as this corn, earthborn, we are snatched from the sod, reaped, ground to grist, crushed and tormented in the mills of God, and offered at life's hands a living Eucharist. I've said we're part of an immense operation that's taking place. Here's a modern poet, David Haddad. We are all shining seeds dropped by a blazing tree into the surrounding night, for flares to light some further foothold, for that great advance of day, in which the sullen, aching dark is bound to be rolled back and back, with not an earthly chance to make us stand and stay. This tremendous thought that the dark actually hasn't got a hope. The forces of the Archangel Michael have already won. The beast, you remember, made war in heaven against Michael and his angels and was thrown down to earth, where, having great fury, because he knoweth that his time is short. In other words, the poor old devil really hasn't got a hope, but he's putting up a very big fight just now. And all the news gives us the sense of disaster. But we are seeing in such a thought as that he hasn't a hope, really. The human heart can go the lengths of God. Dark and cold we may be, but this is no winter now. The frozen misery of centuries cracks, breaks, begins to move. The thunder is the thunder of the flows, the thaw, the flood, the upstart spring. Thank God our time is now. When wrong comes up to face us everywhere, never to leave us till we take the longest stride of soul men ever took. Affairs are now soul size. The enterprise is exploration into God. Where are you making for? It takes so many thousand years to wake. But will you wake for pity's sake? That is Christopher Fry from the play The Sleep of Prisoners. Summarizes the whole of our situation. I'm going to give you another by David Haddad. Now, here's the new consciousness coming. The new romantic consciousness, which is beginning to see into the heart of things. I, blind, no longer see a glory hidden in the heart of things. That consciousness is coming. He calls this flying above England. Those vast horizons above the clouds, white blooming, white earth, frothy lands. They are man's own domain. Billowy meadows, gleaming canyons, the foothills of resplendently divine eternity. His native land, his home and realm. There he returns out of the depths of life. From there he plunges to the ground to hedged in sight and murky views and thwarted reach, where light is scarce and hope is dim, bringing with him the brimming memories, the deeply ingrained knowing of sun-bleached, radiant plains beneath a sky forever blazing blue. Once having lived the lowest low of being, hauling the loftiest heights down to the lowest deep, we, knowing all, will have no need to fall once more, but ever after scale, explore the dazzling peaks of ever brighter, higher, greater, still more glorious mountain ranges. There's a fine effort. The visionary journey. You see, he comes bringing with him the brimming memories of deeply ingrained knowing of sun-bleached radiant plains beneath the sky. Put your consciousness up there now. Imagine you are flying in this wonderful world. And in imagination you are. Remember this is the great discovery in the reality of the power of imagination, that you are, in the true sense, where you project your imagination. So you are now up on this ethereal level, in a true sense. Remember Keats saying, I am certain of nothing but the holiness of the heart's affection and the truth of imagination. So put yourself in imagination up there, beneath the sky, forever blazing blue. Now, once having lived the lowest low of being, hauling the loftiest of heights down to the lowest deep, we, knowing all, will have no need to fall once more, but ever after scale, explore the dazzling peaks of ever brighter, higher, still more glorious mountain ranges. Here again is another very contemporary poet, Pamela Constantine, or I think her poetical name is Amalie Page. We find the same thought coming in again. Who seeks will find truth written on the page, portent of a lost and coming age, whose qualities held sentient in the race will bring mankind into a state of grace. And all shall know, and all works will disclose the life of truth that every poet knows. A lost and coming age. Think of the once and future king. This one is called The Lamps Had Been Unlit. The lamps had been unlit, my life rolled up put away. Wait, someone said. Not yet. Another day. Why? Asked my unborn heart. I want to live now, please. No one answered. Patience came in the 100th year of ease. And again, let me be born. Not impatience, you understand, but a hunger to give and be given, to explore the unvisioned land. And so the lamps were lit, and I lived. Dear God, I see the need of the 100 patient years you asked of me. All these are an effort. This expression is an effort to put into crystalline poetical expression of this realization that we're standing on this threshold, that earth is the great training ground for souls. And that having gone through all the separation, having gone through the experience of the ancient mariner, alone, all alone on a wide, wide sea, and never a saint took pity on my soul in agony. Now that's what we've gone through in our separation. But we are coming out of the separation now into the oneness and seeing in different ways all this vision of the coming light, and seeing that we're part of a great light and a great pressure that is coming in on us, a pressure of the light. The real great truth of our time now is that there is being an inflooding of a force field of living light, which is raising the whole frequency rate, the vibratory rate in the world of matter. And as human beings are part of the world of matter, our frequency rate is lifting, and we're opening to fourth and fifth dimensional consciousness, into the light. So the lamps are re-lit. One more of hers. Must we wait forever after the death of youth for the kiss of beauty and the touch of truth? How shall we journey where we can truly be, where we can truly be, who sprang from awe and wonder into poetry? How recognize in selves so commonplace the truer likeness of a solar race? Shall we not love and break this long spell, recovering heaven and ourselves as well? We're recognizing how recognize in selves so commonplace as all of us. The truer likeness of a solar race. A new humanity is emerging This is the great thought in our time, that in the middle of all this darkness, there is truly a new humanity coming to birth. Here's a lovely thing by a man called James Aitchison, Landscape with Lapwings. Let your imagination move in this now. It's another April, and a day with all the seasons in it, with lapwings falling out of sunlight into rain, stalling on a squall, and then tumbling over the collapsing wall of air to float in zones of weightlessness again. And on a day like this, in such a place, a few square miles of moorland and a round of rounded hills, rain clouds and scattered trees, with water flowing clearly over stones, in such a place, I feel the weights slip off, the way a lapwing would if it were me. The place might form a frame of reference for calculating weightlessness, or all the weathers that are in one April day, for drawing what conclusions can be drawn from lapwings tumbling in and out of light with such a total lack of gravity. Now, will you get this? Will you realize this tremendous thought? We are recovering knowledge now of the primary polarity within nature, forgotten since the time of Newton. That there is a true polarity between gravity and levity, the pull towards the center which holds us down, and the pull from the vast circumference of ethereal space which lifts the soul into spirit. That's the real polarity. And levity is a thing that we've got to bring into our consciousness once more in this time. It's touched here. Now this lovely image, you see the wonder of imagination too. Let it happen in your thinking now. It's another April day. A day with all the seasons in it, with lapwings falling out of sunlight into rain, stalling on a squall, and then tumbling over the collapsing wall of air to float in zones of weightlessness again. It's beautiful. You can experience weightlessness. The place would form a frame of reference for calculating weightlessness, for drawing what conclusions can be drawn from lapwings tumbling in and out of light with such a total lack of gravity. Now we must have just a word on to Thomas Traherne, metaphysical poet, 1650. A modern poet, in the sense he wasn't discovered till about 1900. His works were all found hidden away in an attic. That was perfectly right, because nobody could have understood what he was talking about before our century. Because what throughout Traherne is talking about is the direct experience of pre-existence. He was capable of remembering into the womb and beyond. Remember that the recovery of the knowledge of pre-existence is one of the absolutely fundamental things in the change of consciousness. First thing to discover and be concerned with whether you survive. Well, we now see it's axiomatic you survive because you are a droplet of God. How can you do anything else but survive? Because you are life, and life can't die. Only bodies can die. And you want your body. So there, that's all right. But if you always were and always will be, you were there before you were born. As an already mature soul. And the question very soon comes from that, well, where did I get my training? And then you get the idea, accept or leave it, that earth is the great training ground of souls. Many times coming in. And so he describes the condition in the womb before my limbs, before my sinews could my limbs conjoin. Before I skill to prize these living orbs, my eyes, I was within a house I knew not, newly clothed with skin. Do you get it? Probably the embryo. Then, while I was in the embryo, then was my soul my only all to me, a living, endless I, scarce bounded by the sky, whose power and act and essence was to see. I was an endless orb of light, or an interminable orb of sight, greater than that which makes the days, a vital sun that spread abroad its rays, all life, all sense, a naked, simple, pure intelligence. Without restriction, then did I behold the true ideas of all things. Now look at the implications of that. When you see this little, puling, tiny, newborn baby, don't say, what a tiny little soul. It's a huge soul, a mature soul which is beginning the process of incarnating itself into the limitations of a sense-bound consciousness. And at that moment, he is still experiencing himself as a vital sun, greater than the sun itself, a consciousness embracing the whole of the heavens, a simple, pure intelligence. See, this is a piece of information of vital significance for parents, for teachers, for doctors, for psychologists. And relevant to our talking tonight. When he was absolutely tiny, he remembers before birth and through the first years before he could even talk. He remembers it perfectly clearly. Then did I dwell within a world of light, distinct and separate from all men's sight, where I did feel strange thoughts, and such things see that were or seemed only revealed to me. No ear, but eyes themselves were all the hearers there. And every stone and every star a tongue, and every gale of wind a curious song. The heavens were an oracle, and spake divinity. The earth did undertake the office of a priest, and I, being dumb, nothing beside was dumb, all things did come with voices and instructions. And he goes on to say, but I didn't write down the thing, that you ask me what they were saying, everything was speaking divinity to him. He goes on to say that before I could talk, everything spoke to me. The moment I began to talk, they went dumb. And again he says about the infant eye, a simple light from all contagion free, a beam that's purely spiritual, an eye that's altogether virgin, things doth see, even like unto the deity. That is, it shineth in an heavenly sense, and round about, unmoved, its light dispense. The visive rays are beams of light indeed, refined, subtle, piercing, quick and pure. And as they do, the sprightly winds exceed, are worthy longer to endure. They far outshoot the reach of grosser air, with which such excellence may not compare. But being once debased, they soon become less active than they were before. There is the consciousness of the tiny child that can't express itself at all. What is that babe doing when it looks at you and looks straight through you at the being within you and feels for the moon, whatever it may be? It's the wonderful thought. The visive rays are beams of light indeed, refined, subtle, piercing, quick and pure. And as they do, the sprightly winds exceed. They're quicker than the wind. They are worthy longer to endure. They far outshoot the reach of grosser air. Well now I come to, I've got a bit more to do. I'm leading towards the point of saying what really then is the new Romanticism. Coleridge and Wordsworth both began to get very near to it. Now here's an all-important quotation of Coleridge's. From the Dejection Ode. This is interesting, actually, that Wordsworth and Coleridge both revealed to each other this depression they had at apparently losing the vision that they'd earlier had. I quoted Wordsworth's reaction. In response to that, Wordsworth wrote the ode on the intimations of immortality, and Coleridge wrote the Dejection Ode. And in it come these lines. I may not hope from outward forms to win the passion and the life whose fountains are within. We receive but what we give, and in our lives alone does nature live. Ours is her wedding garment, ours her shroud. And would we aught behold of higher worth than that inanimate cold world allowed to the poor, loveless, ever anxious crowd? Ah, from the soul itself must issue forth a light, a glory, a fair luminous cloud enveloping the earth. And from the soul itself there must be sent a sweet and potent voice of its own birth. Of all sweet sounds, the life and element. You must have that again because it's hard to get. We receive but what we give. And in our life alone doth nature live. Ours is her wedding garment, ours her shroud. Remember, we are now recovering this knowledge that humanity is the point, is integrally part of nature, is that point in nature which has become reflective and self-conscious. We are the point where nature looks out consciously and sees itself divine. We are nature, and therefore in our lives alone doth nature live, or live consciously. Nature goes on turning over and doing its stuff, working out the divine plan, but unconsciously. And we get a hint here, we're coming to a tremendous point, that the angelic world watching, God watching, wants some part in his creation which doesn't only obey and turn over the workings of the divine plan, on and on and on, year by year, season by season. But itself becomes creative, a free part of nature which is able consciously to reflect God and itself become creative. And this is the great experiment of man. This is what is happening on the earth. And remember, we have now reached in this generation the threshold of the change of consciousness, the coming to birth, the breaking through, the breaking out. And the new romantic movement is the waking up to what is happening and the thrill of it. Ours is her wedding garment, ours her shroud. Are you going to marry nature or bury her? And would we aught behold of higher worth than that inanimate cold world, allowed to the poor, loveless, ever anxious crowd. From the soul itself must issue forth a light, a glory, a fair luminous cloud enveloping the earth. And from the soul itself there must be sent a sweet and potent voice of its own birth. Of all sweet sounds, the life and element. We could work, we haven't got time to do it at the moment now, but we could work into imaginative vision. You can do it, expand consciousness rapidly, realize you can oscillate between limitation into embodiment and expansion into the vast levity field, and look back on the earth down here. It is true your soul can embrace the earth, can wrap it in a cloud of light. You can look at it holographically, because your consciousness is the width that Traherne experienced. You are wherever you project your consciousness. This is what we are discovering, and this is what imagination is. A little word of Wordsworth's. Feeling about nature imparted power that doth like an agent of the one great mind create. Feeling about nature imparted a power that doth like an agent of the one great mind create. You are an agent of God's mind. An auxiliar light came from my mind, which on the setting sun bestowed new splendor. What a claim. An auxiliar light came from my mind, which on the setting sun bestowed new splendor. Now, I'm coming to the point that what really the Romantics were saying, and our understanding is picking up, is that nature is not fulfilled until human consciousness unites with the idea, the being, the archetype within the natural forms. That merely to look at and enjoy nature is not the final answer. That is fun. The sounding cataract haunted me like a passion. You would get all the fun of youth there. But now, later in life, he says, also in the Tintin poem, I have felt a presence which disturbs me with the joy of elevated thought. A sense sublime of something far more deeply interfused, whose dwelling is the light of setting suns, and the wide ocean, and the living air, and the blue sky, and in the mind of man, a motion and a spirit that impels all thinking things, all objects of all thoughts, and rolls through all things. But not only has he got the consciousness of spirit everywhere, and is experiencing it. But what they were looking at and trying to express was, I repeat the phrase, the realization that nature is not fulfilled until man takes the step of expanding consciousness and uniting with the idea behind every form, the being within flowers, trees, and everything else. And then nature comes alive. And then the day you treasure, can I get that word again? You earth, living, breathing earth, the day we treasure you as you have treasured us. Humanness is born. And throughout all light, a radiance leaps from star to star, singing, a son is born, humanity. This is what's happening. The earth is coming alight and humanity is being born. This is the new romanticism. And I think I draw to an end on Walt Whitman, who carries it even further now. The higher self talking to the soul. Darest thou now, O soul, walk out with me towards that unknown region where neither ground is for the feet nor any path to follow. No map there, nor guide, no voice sounding, no touch of human hand, nor face with blooming flesh, nor lips, nor eyes are in that land. I know it not, O soul, nor dost thou. All is blank before us. All waits undreamed of in that region, that inaccessible land. Till when the ties loosen, all but the ties eternal, time and space, no darkness, gravitation, sense, nor any bounds bounding us, then we burst forth, we float in time and space, O soul, prepared for them, equal, equipped at last. O joy, O fruit of all, them to fulfill, O soul. Now all waits undreamt of in that inaccessible land. Darest thou, soul, walk out with me, out of the limitation of sense-bound thinking into universal imagination? Have you got the courage to leave the safety, remembering, as T.S. Eliot says, humankind cannot bear very much reality, and so we shut ourselves safely in the body. But till all waits are undreamed of, till when the ties loosen, all but the ties eternal, time and space, nor darkness, gravitation, sense, nor any bounds bounding us, then we burst forth, we float in time and space. Now listen, prepared for them, equipped at last, equal, equipped at last, them to fulfill, O soul. And he calls that, O joy, O fruit of all. This tremendous thought that not only, as Wordsworth and Coleridge discovered, that nature is not fulfilled until man takes the step in consciousness to unite with the idea, the thought behind it, but Whitman is contending that not until the time and space are not fulfilled, until we free ourselves from gravity and expand as a divine organ into them. And that is the joy, the fruit of all. We burst forth, we float in time and space. O soul, prepared for them, prepared for time and space, equal with time and space, equipped at last them to fulfill, O soul. That's the human destiny, to fulfill time and space. And it's perfectly valid thinking because, after all, the human archetype, first created in the mind of God, is God. God's created the like unto himself. And therefore our real nature is one with the whole of time and space. And this is the meaning of Romans 8, where it says that all creation groaneth and travaileth, waiting for the sons of man to be revealed. This is what we are called on in freedom. Because we've been given freedom, we have got to take this step. This, to my mind, is what the new romantic movement is about. This is really the new romanticism, that we have the courage to do this burst forth and take hold of time and space. This is the real space exploration, not merely shooting our rockets, which are still physical, round the planets, but expanding consciousness into ethereal space, which is not physical space, but ethereal space, which is the great vast consciousness organ of God, outside time, and that the human consciousness can enter, romantically indeed.